Welcome everyone to this episode of the Leadership Advancement Mentorship Podcast, where we feature great leaders with great stories. We talk about their awareness, how they become aware of their leadership potential, and we talk about their leadership development and also the mentorship advantage, how it has really helped them to be more effective in their leadership. With me today is such a great leader that I've been looking forward to have on this platform. I want you to know I listened to her speak at the Maxwell Leadership Conference, the stage time. She was awesome. She was awesome. And to get to the stage time, it takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. Welcome with me, Coach Amy Shaw. How are you, Amy?
Hi.
How
Thanks
are
for
you?
having me.
Wow, we're glad to have you. Yeah. Tell us something about yourself, Coach Amy. Yeah.
Something about myself. Well, I'm silly. I'm an artist. I'm a widowed mom of 10 children,
Hmm.
and I love to have fun and I love people.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. It's obvious. And one thing about you is just like you have this kind of stage presence
Mm.
and this outlook of a leader. Have you always been like that? And this kind of outlook of a leader. Just kind of like a leader when you see one.
Mm.
And have you always been like that? Or at what age did you become aware of this leadership potential that God has put inside of you? At what time of your life?
I was trying to think about that. So I'm the oldest of three children, so I was a leader in that way, but I don't think I saw myself that way as a leader. So probably
Mm,
once I went to college, and I was doing leadership there in different ministries, and specifically I was on the cabinet for a student missionary project.
mm,
And so I was, there were six of us, and we had gone the year before, and then we came back as leaders. And I was thinking that's probably my official leadership time. I was doing like backyard Bible clubs and that kind of thing with children for years before
mm,
that. But I'm not sure that I really like stopped and took stock of myself and said, "Hey,
mm,
girlfriend, you got some leadership potential." I don't know that I ever really did that.
mm,
I
mm,
think I was just already doing leadership, and I ended up, as I was teaching school in Indonesia for a while. And so I was in leadership positions, which I
mm.
know does not make one a leader. You
Yeah.
need to have
Yeah.
the character and all the other things involved. Uh,
Mm, mm.
so yeah,
Did somebody call your attention to it? Even though you were playing all these roles in leadership, did somebody call your attention to it to say something that spark the reflection and that leads to that awareness? Or how
can't
did that awareness
think of a
happen?
time when someone did that for me. Um, there were people who believed in me and my
Okay.
potential
Did,
for
did, did
sure.
they express it?
Yeah, is that
Mm.
terrible that I can't think of of
Yeah,
a
because the,
time?
the, the the reason is that at times they do. I remember when I was in like eighth grade.
Hmm.
Then one of my teachers he wrote it on my report card, and
Hmm.
it was the first person
Hmm.
that really make that statement about leadership. And I said, wow,
Hmm.
and I don't really think so much about it, but it got my attention.
Yeah.
Even though I've seen me make some moves and all that stuff, but that affirmation, someone said to affirmation means to make firm. When someone give you an affirmation, either in writing or verbally, it reinforces, that belief that yes, I am. That's why when we look at people, we can affirm leadership, especially in young children.
Mhm.
It's like you calling someone out. Just say, let's say you have a dog, And I know you got two dogs, so just tell me one of the name of the dogs.
Zuri.
Okay, now Zuri. Now, if you say it out loud and Zuri just around the corner, Zuri might just come to the screen right now.
Well, we
And
put her
that's
in a
what
faraway room.
and, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's like someone calling something out.
Mhm.
It's like you don't call something out if you don't have it. And
Mhm.
I'm glad Dr. John Maxwell wrote the book, Develop the Leader Within You.
Mhm.
When he wrote that book, yeah, he said people start coming to him that, oh, thank you for writing that book. I never knew that there's a leader within me because you can't develop something if you don't have it, you know. So everybody became aware. He said until then, people always think that leadership is by lottery, that, oh, some people are lucky to have it, some they didn't win the lottery, they didn't have it. But now that book helped people to be aware that, oh, so that means I can develop the leader within me. So,
Mhm.
at what point did that awareness really came alive for you? Even if nobody talk about that, at what point
Yeah.
you have that self-awareness?
I'm thinking that I probably didn't come aware of that until I was married and my husband just started. I mean, he was always building me up and he was always telling me that I was amazing and, just really constantly affirming me and believing in me. And it was
Mm,
really, I borrowed his belief. Uh,
mm,
where I didn't have it.
mm,
I grew up really bullied for having big eyes, and
mm,
I made the mistake of allowing my peers to tell me my value, and that is something
mm,
that I articulate very carefully with all of my children, is that
mm.
other people do not have that right. Do not
Yeah.
give them that right. But I didn't know that. And so
Mm,
I just believed that I wasn't worth, as a kid told me, you're not worth the space you take up on the planet. And I
mm,
heard that and I just was like, okay, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth it. And
mm,
so I
mm,
really swallowed that. So I think my husband really, he loved me and I'm probably being hard on myself, but he really blew
mm,
into my sails. He really believed in me and
mm.
um
So it was the main person that helped that self-awareness to come alive.
I think so. I mean, like I said, I did stuff before I was married. I was
Mm.
doing leadership, but
Yeah.
I don't know that I perceived myself as
Mm,
somebody competent, someone who really should be, in a leadership position.
mm,
And, through my study in John Maxwell, I've discovered that leadership isn't a quality. There's all
mm,
these qualities that make up good leadership. And
mm,
and that's, I think, important. Now, interesting, I had my first daughter, my first child
mm.
was what we would think as a natural born leader. Before she was even 2 years old, we were at a shoe store and she was leading other children around. All the kids were bigger than she was and older than she was, and she was marching them around singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider.
2 year old.
And so I mean, I was like, who did I give birth to? That child is a leader.
Yeah, you
So
just gave back to a leader.
yeah. So, I think that there's that kind of leadership, like natural potential, but then I think
Yeah.
as you study and develop yourself, and you come to realize that actually leadership is just a whole bunch of qualities coming together and really,
Mm.
really aiming together on purpose,
Yeah.
intention.
Wow. And I really appreciate what you just shared, especially about your 2 year old. But I believe something. There's something I've been working on. It's called Life, LIFE, and that was that's gonna be the focus of the Women at Blaze and global women and global leadership conference that we'll be having. And that means leadership is for everyone. I believe that. Even you
Mhm.
just talk about your 2 year old now. I mean, either male or female, leadership is for everyone. It's for older kids, it's for little kids, it's for adults, it's for men, it's for women, it's for
It's
everyone.
really grappling with that because
Yeah.
I have known some people that only follow and they don't want to lead. But then I was thinking about them in their own spheres, that they
Mm.
are leading some people, that
Yeah.
everyone really, I mean, the definition of leadership is really influence. And
Yeah.
so they do have influence over maybe a smaller circle of people, but they do
Mm.
have leadership. And I think the other thing is that there's a mantle of leadership, and are you willing to pick it up and to do
Mm.
what's required to become
Mm.
Because a lot of
Mm.
people are like, I'd rather follow. It's just easier to follow. So
Wow.
I
Wow.
think you're right. Leadership is for everyone, but not
Yeah,
everyone is going to rise to that occasion.
exactly.
In certain arenas,
Mm.
they may want to stay small, and then,
Mm.
I guess that allows more room for other people to rise up in those
Well,
spaces.
I believe I actually believe, Coach Amy, and I'm glad we're having this leadership conversation, and because the thing is this: the sky is not a limit. There's room for everyone at the
Mm,
top.
yeah.
This is what Zig Ziglar said, and he said, "You are the only one who can use your ability.
Mm,
It is an awesome responsibility."
yeah.
Say you are the only one who can use your ability. It's an awesome, and that's what leadership is all about.
Mm,
In one of the books that I wrote, it's called the Area Code. It's a key to servant leadership. This podcast is not about to publicize my book, but I'm just giving you that analogy. I learned that area code directly from God.
mm,
And what God showed me about that area code is an acronym. It means accept responsibility, exercise authority.
mm,
Most of the time, people want to exercise authority. Yes, I'm the boss, I'm the one, and all that. But they are not ready to accept responsibility to serve the people. And this
mm,
book is about servant leadership. In fact, we had a conference, the one that we had just this March the 1st, and it's called Made for More and Global Leadership Conference.
mm,
That's the fourth of the kind of conference we've had. And it's based on the title of this book, Unveiling the Essence of Servant Leadership. And
mm,
each speaker approached it from different
mm,
perspectives. But what I want to bring out about is this: we all have that leadership ability. We all have that, but it's an awesome responsibility.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that was that responsibility that you took to take the lead.
Yeah.
Because leadership is not just talking the lead, it's taking the lead.
Yeah.
It is when you take the lead. And another thing I'm learning about leadership is that I learned from Dr. Miles Morrow is we're not actually leader over people. We are leader over our gifts. It is
Mm,
when we take the lead in our gifting, that gift is being developed, that people now follow us. Now, case in point. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you have an Apple phone or Samsung Android?
I have an apple.
You
Yes.
know what? I call an Android phone pineapple. So you got Apple, I got
Apple.
Android. My wife
Pineapple.
have tried to help. My wife have tried to get me to get Apple. I said, no, you can hold on to your Apple. I will hold on to my pineapple. I call Android just, just for being funny. Yeah. And the reason why I asked this thing, someone called Steve Jobs came up with that Apple phone. So
Mhm.
he's a leader in that aspect because you don't say, oh, well, no, I don't want to use the Apple phone. I'm going to create my own strawberry phone. I'll create my phone. I'll call it strawberry. You don't have to invent the wheel because he already take the lead in that area. So people are following Steve Jobs. Anytime you buy any Apple product, you're following his lead the same way as we take the lead in the area of our gifting. People follow us. They subscribe to
Mhm.
what is happening. For instance, you just wrote a book.
I
Now,
did.
in that area, and one thing that touched me about you is said you wrote that book for you because when you need that book, you can find it. So,
Right.
what did you just did, Coach Amy? You take the lead so that
Mm,
many people that are buying the book, because you were looking for such book, you don't have it. So, what did
mm,
you do? You create one.
mm,
So many people that get through that situation, guess what they will do? They will see that book and go and get the book. So what makes that you make what makes that of you? It makes you a leader. It's not
mm,
based on your position, it's based on your influence. The influence of the book. So that's the lens in which I'm looking at leadership.
Mhm.
So if you are not taking the lead through your gifting, there's no point people following you in that area. So that's just the perspective that I'm sharing with you now, and I believe this will help some people, and that's why one of the book I'm working on is on personal leadership, because I realize that personal leadership is when you take the lead through your gift. And as you did that now, a lot of people, they will have that light. The paperback of the book came out today. They will be able to purchase the book. Wow, 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 wow. I can see some light now. But you don't have that.
Mm.
And you could have said, oh, well, I don't have it and do nothing about it. But the leadership in you will not allow you to rest. So tell us, um, what's what did you do after you became self-aware of that leadership potential? Tell us the step you've taken to
Mm.
develop yourself as a leader. Yeah.
So I was thinking back about some of the early books that I read and really
Okay.
enjoyed. There was a book by Elizabeth George that
Hmm.
I consumed over and over and over. And I'm not even able to bring up the title, but it was all about how you use your home, how you use your time. And time management has always fascinated me. You and I have had a lot of time management
Yeah.
conversations. And then I homeschooled our children for a short period of time and
Hmm.
really, really enjoyed time management.
Hmm.
Like manuals that would come and where you would just kind of sort out your entire household
Hmm.
in a management way. So, and
Hmm.
obviously leadership and management are two very different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Management is the systems
Yeah.
and leadership is having that influence. But I think for me, I have to learn those systems. I have to really intentionally learn them because
Hmm.
I'm just
Hmm.
really kind of a laid back, loosey goosey, go with the flow, let's go have fun kind of person.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I have to be really like, I really have to work to say, okay, I need to make the most of my time. And that's
Hmm.
really, and that's probably why time management feels so important to me because I did lose my husband young. And
Hmm.
so I am aware that my life is short. I don't know the number of days. Now we
Hmm.
know the number of days that Brian had because he's finished with his life.
Hmm.
That number was present when he was born. And so I'm very aware of time and I'm very
Hmm.
aware that my influence is going to have a cutoff. And so I
Hmm.
just want so much to milk every day to be able to
Hmm.
use it for the best. So I think that's my interest and my personal development desire to really learn time management. But then of course, developing my leadership with, becoming a John Maxwell certified team member was really a big
Hmm.
deal. And I think,
That's another step in your development. Yeah.
yes, for
So
sure.
when
And
when
I
when did you
just,
take that step, and why did you do that?
yeah, I just did that last year. And
Okay.
the reason I did that was because I was already in the space of doing public speaking.
Okay.
And I had a mentor, actually Tracy Morrow, tell me,
Oh,
you
Tracy Morris,
really,
your mentor.
yeah, she's
Oh,
definitely
beach
one of
body.
them. Yes, we were Beachbody coaches together for years.
Wow.
I think, she said, Amy, you are naturally good, but every speaker can get better. And so,
Yeah.
like there may be raw material that's good, but to enhance that. And so she told me, go find a speaker trainer. And so I knew that she was already connected with John Maxwell. So I looked into that. And that was
Mm.
really my intention of joining the team was to get speaker
Wow.
training, which I
Wow.
had excellent speaker training. And like you said, I made it onto stage time.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
but
I
there's
mean,
so much.
Tracy will be so excited to find you on stage time. She'll be so excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was there. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, but I think, in the development
Mm.
phase, I mean, you're always developing, and John says that. I'm never done.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never arrived.
There's no
But
finish line. Yeah.
I've had some really sweet mentors over the years. Is
Mm.
that okay if we launch into
Yeah, yeah, it's
the
okay. So
mentorship question?
talk about how has mentorship has really shaping your leadership.
Yeah, I have a really kind of a special story about this. Um,
Hmm.
and
Tell us about it.
I'll go back a little bit. I was on a mission trip in Haiti in 1992, and I had some spare hours, and I asked the missionary if I could read a book on her shelf, and she was like, sure. So the one
Mm.
I grabbed, actually, I have it right here, was this Lords of the Earth. Oh, it's not going to come in.
Mm.
Well,
Oh,
Lords
that'll
of
be
the
coming.
Earth by Don Richardson. And I was in dangerous Haiti. Like, we were singing in churches and they were shooting guns out in the street. So it was kind of a
Wow.
scary situation. But I was reading this book, Lords of the Earth, and it's about the cannibalistic tribes
Mm.
in Indonesia, and these two families that go to become missionaries, and the husbands are on one of their treks to make contact. They are killed by these cannibalistic tribes. They are beheaded. They are dismembered, and then it was
Wow.
rumored to the families that they cannibalized them. And 7 years later, they were told that actually we were afraid to eat them because we knew that they had a spirit in them,
Mm.
which is really powerful. But the one family went back to Australia. The other family, the wife was pregnant with her fifth child. She stayed there. She delivered that baby. And then she stayed out there among these jungle tribes, and that whole tribe came to Christ. And so anyway, I'm reading that book while I'm in Haiti, and I return the book to the shelf. Thank you for letting me read your book. Fast forward, I'm back at Wheaton College's campus, and
Mm.
it's the next year. I'm walking through one of the buildings, and there's a woman standing there at a display. She has a name tag, and man, that name is ringing a bell somewhere in the back of my head. And so I asked her, hey, how would I know your name? And she holds up that book and she says, have you read
The same
this?
book.
And I was like, I have read that book. And it wasn't clicking. And she said, this is my story. I'm like,
Mm.
wait, that was you?
She was
She
one of the women.
she was the pregnant wife who became
Wow,
widow.
that stayed back and brought
Yes,
the
yes.
whole tribe
She's
to Christ.
standing there, yes, at my college. And I said, oh, can I have dinner with you?
Wow.
And so we began a friendship, and this is before email. So we wrote longhand letters to one another through the mail.
Mm.
And over the course of the next year or so, um, she told me that she was returning back to Indonesia. And so in a letter, I asked her, can I go with you? And I had to wait for her next letter, but she
You
said, yes.
weird.
Yes, you can come with me. And so
Wow.
after I graduated from college, I flew out with her to Irian Indonesia, and I spent 5 weeks with this woman, and she really
Mm.
became a strong mentor for me. And one of the most powerful things is we landed on this little grass airstrip. These mountains are really, really high, and you have to circle in on these little tiny airplanes and land on this grass airstrip. And the people that met her when we got off the plane, she's embracing them, and she comes and she introduces me. She said, this man was part of the raiding party that murdered
Mm.
my husband. And I'm
Mm.
just like, I have never, I mean, I'm like 20 years old, 21 years old, and I've never witnessed that level of
Mm.
forgiveness and powerful
Mm.
love.
Mm.
And so she mentored me in that, but then she also spent time um, explaining to me
What,
how
what's her
she
name?
her name is Phyllis Masters.
Okay, wow.
And
Wow.
she is still living, and I'm
Mm.
still in contact with her. Um,
Mm.
and so she spent time with me. We were up in this little attic. I remember it was raining, and she showed me her stack of 3x5 cards. She had
Mm.
this massive stack, and you know what they were? They were scriptures. And she would write one down, and she would memorize it, and then she would review that entire stack every day. And she
Mm.
said that she had that habit, and when her husband was murdered, those were the ways that the Lord
Kept
really
her focused.
helped her heal. Yeah, and helped, I mean, had the strength to stay there
Mm.
because of that.
Mm.
I had no idea at that time that, number one, that I was going to marry Brian. And
Mm.
well, maybe I did. No, not then. It was the next year that I'm that we got
Mm,
together. So I had no idea that I was going to have this amazing marriage and then I too would one day be
mm,
widowed. But I
mm,
did what she said and I made my
mm.
own set of cards and I started
Wow.
doing that
Mm,
memorization. And
mm,
certainly that has been part of my testimony of
mm,
my strength, being from memorizing those verses and having
mm,
uh,
mm,
do that. So mentoring has been huge in my life. And that's just one
mm,
of many mentors, across the
mm.
years. But I love that story because it is so
Wow, that was a powerful story. I
powerful.
mean, that was like, what is the probability that you will read a book in Haiti,
I
and
know.
now come to the United States and meet someone that come odd that is a missionary in Indonesia? I mean, that was no coincidence.
Yeah.
It was a God thing. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
And then when Brian and I married, she drove in a car by herself. She was in her 60s then, and she
Wow.
drove from Iowa to Ohio to attend our wedding, and it just
Wow.
meant the world
Wow.
to me. So,
Wow. That's awesome, man. You are still in touch with her right now?
yes.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's beautiful. Wow. So now I mean that was a really classical in fact that is a proof of the power of mentorship. That's why I wrote this book, The Mentorship Advantage. And in that book, I give an acronym of what mentorship does. Because when we talk about mentorship, it really matters. It really matters. Yeah. Now, I want to ask another question, vital leadership question. What is the greatest lesson you have ever learned as a leader?
Oh, goodness. You should have
Mm.
prepped me with that one because I would have spent time thinking through my life. What is the best?
But the greatest lesson, I know you've learned a lot, but the greatest one. Yeah. The greatest of the greatest.
Probably that we have to serve one another.
Mm, mm,
That is the way
mm,
to people's hearts. And
mm,
it's the best way to show leadership when they know that you
mm.
care about them and they know
Wow.
you care by when you
Mm,
serve them. Yeah.
wow. In fact, one of the things I got today from Rory Vaden is he was talking about someone that made a statement. He said the name of the person is Larry Wingate.
Mm,
He said, find your uniqueness and exploit it in
mm,
the service of others.
mm,
He said, find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. So if I may ask the question, what is your uniqueness as a leader? What is
mm.
one thing that people talks about you that, I mean, they just reference it all the time. It's not just one time. It's not just
Yeah.
one person. So many people, they say the same thing about you. And it has now become like, wow, that reinforcement as that awareness has become so high. So what is
Mm.
one thing that people talks about you when they get to be with
I
you?
think creative communication. I've heard that over
Wow.
and over, whether
Mm.
it's, me artistically creating something or just being very dramatic as I share. I had Roddy tell me to like bring it down a little. You can't be so dramatic.
You know,
But, but Michael told me to be exploitive in my uniqueness. But yeah, I think
you know what?
creative communication.
I agree with you 100% that you are dramatic. You know why? When I was telling you about the Parent Empowered Annual Global Conference, you said you're gonna write it in pencil. I said that was dramatic. You don't remember it? It's just it's okay to be you, because there's only one you in the universe.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's really okay. Now tell us what is the greatest advice that you have received, and we'll give it to you.
My greatest advice.
Mm, that you have
Uh,
received. Yeah.
what's coming to my mind is something that
Mm.
I didn't like hearing, that God was more interested in my obedience than my comfort. Uh, I didn't like hearing that, but I think she was right. That was my mother-in-law, uh, who I just love dearly.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
but I can't help just thinking of Jesus saying to love your neighbor as yourself. That's really what
mm,
comes to my mind too, is
mm. Mm,
that Jesus's teachings help me the most, and when
mm,
I actually do it,
mm,
one thing to read it and think that's a nice thing,
mm,
but to
mm.
actually put it into practice and really do it, that's when
Yeah.
things really change.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. Now, I want to just, and I like this as we begin to wrap up. Yeah, the next question of action, and I'm going to be going to is this. What will the uh, what will you tell a little Amy, and what will you tell the little you? What leadership advice would you like to give to yourself,
Mm,
your 20-year-old or your 15-year-old? So what is the leadership advice you want to give to your little self?
mm,
Because I believe so many emerging leaders, they are listening to watching this podcast.
mm.
So what will you do differently? And if you have an opportunity to just go back, what will you do differently? And based on what you've learned now as a leader.
Mm. I think about my dad, and my dad told me when I was in high school, as I was getting ready for prom, he told me that
Hmm.
you're going to walk in the door and worry about what everybody's thinking of you, but
Hmm.
reality is that nobody's thinking about you because they're all busy thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
And I think if I would be able to tell myself, hey, serve other people, and
Hmm.
the I think because I was in such a negative deficit as a child, believing that I
Hmm.
was so low and I wasn't on par with normal people. It was
Hmm.
incredibly difficult for me to believe that I might be a leader of people. So
Hmm.
I think I would tell myself, hey, you are actually amazing and you don't believe it yet, but serve people with a heart of love, and that's going
Hmm.
to take you where you need to be, because that's
Hmm.
really, that's I also remember my cousin as a young child. He's 10 years older than me, and I was little. I want to say between 7 and 10 years old, and
Hmm.
I wanted to be popular. Of course I wasn't, because everyone made fun of me for having big eyes. Um, but I remember him telling me, and wow, the wisdom of this little kid. He said that being popular is the way to become popular is to be kind to everyone,
Hmm.
because it's not about getting them to like you. It's
Hmm.
being kind to them, and they will always
Hmm.
come back to the person who's kind to them. Which,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so
And that's true. That's true.
it is true.
That's just being others focus. And that's the key about serving. You can serve others with. I believe in serving people.
Mhm.
Because leadership is all about service. And
Yeah.
but it's not just serving others, but serving others well.
Mm.
And there's this acronym I came up with about serving others well. My code always talk about everyone deserve to be led well, and I told my code everyone deserve to be served well.
Mm. Yeah.
And so serving others well become an acronym to me. Now, if you
Mm.
look at that word, serving others well, SOW, what
Mm.
comes to your mind when you think about that?
You're not gonna like it. I was thinking about a sow, a
No, no,
female
no,
pig.
SOW.
But that's also a sow, a female pig. But
Oh,
I know
oh,
you
whoa, whoa,
probably
whoa, okay, okay, okay. Now, well.
know. Are you thinking sowing plant and sowing?
Exactly. That's the one I
Go
need.
with that version, not the pig.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
Yeah.
the SOW, yeah, is just the place of planting. So
Hmm.
when we serve others well, you're planting a seed. Just like Phyllis Masters, she
Yes.
served you well.
Yes, she did.
And she didn't just speak to you the first day you met her. She would have done that.
Mm.
She allowed you to go and experience
Mm.
the place
Yeah.
where she learned how to forgive. That was empowering. And you spent 5 weeks right
Yeah.
in that environment. That was serving others well. Now, the seed that she planted in you has grown so much. That's why you can tell that story. You
Mm.
read her book in 80. Now you now met her in person. She
Yeah.
now gave you opportunity to go with her. She came to your wedding. There's so much history to that. And I
Hmm.
believe one of the gifts that she gave you is she believed in you.
Yeah.
And that has led you to, with your 10 kids now, and with your husband has transited to glory now, and
Yeah.
this factor, this mentorship factor, and
Mhm.
the model she did has helped you to be a role model to others also. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and that's very powerful, and serving others well should be our goal as leaders,
Sure.
because leadership is all about service. In fact, Dr. John Maxwell said the heart of leadership is service,
Yeah.
and the heart of leadership is service. So, before we wrap up, so how can people find you? I know we're going to talk about your book in Authors Forum. I don't want to duplicate content. So so just tell us about the book that you wrote. So we won't talk about it now. People are going to get that content at Authors Forums. So just briefly tell us why you wrote the book. Yeah.
So I wrote the book because we were
Tell us
up.
the title of the
The
book. Yeah.
title is Navigating Goodbye. It's a
Yeah.
guide for those blindsided by terminal illness. And
Yeah.
that is exactly what we were. We were busy living our life with our 10 children, and we
Mm,
were utterly shocked to find out that my husband had terminal brain cancer. And they were
mm,
saying, you have 6, maybe 12 months if you do treatment. And I like,
mm,
what? And he was 43 years old.
mm,
And that was just so shocking. And then the way we lived that out and really made good memories and really prepared him for heaven.
mm,
We walked him down the red carpet to the door of eternity. So that's really, there was no book, there was no handbook, there was no like, you're so shocked, you're so blindsided. Like, what do we do? Like, well, there's no book there to tell you.
mm,
So I've
mm,
put all of my best thoughts, trying to condense them into a short book for people to
mm,
read. I didn't want to make it long. I wanted to make it accessible, and you don't have to read it cover to cover. You can just grab the chapter that you need.
mm,
Shortcuts for, understanding medical stuff and what's
mm,
a clinical trial and when do, I literally thought that hospice was like a 911 that you call hospice. I didn't
mm,
understand that it's a company and there's multiple and you choose.
Part to it, yeah.
I had no idea. And so
Mm,
I've kind of put that kind of stuff in there. Also, like how to leave a legacy, what matters,
yeah.
and what
Mm,
not to worry about, as well as just this concept of
mm,
eternity. And,
mm,
so Brian is in eternity. I haven't lost him. I know
yeah.
right where he is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go join him after
Exactly.
a little while. So it
Yeah.
changes, it shifts your mindset. It
Mm,
allowed us as a family
mm,
to
mm,
celebrate what he was getting to do as opposed
yeah.
to clinging to him
Yeah.
and like,
Mm,
oh, don't leave us. How are and
mm,
shivering in fear of how are
yeah.
we going to live without him. Um,
Mm,
and if, I didn't know how we would live without him. I believed
mm,
that God, who has been faithful, would
yeah.
continue to be faithful, and He has. So that's
Mm,
why I wrote the book. And then, where they can find me is at the website for the business that I've started called Walk the Red, which is
mm,
referring to that red carpet leading to the door of eternity,
mm,
walkthered.com. And I'm on
wow.
LinkedIn too. And
Wow.
I'm on Instagram, Walk the
So
Red.
how can they find you on LinkedIn? Can you tell us how?
Yeah, I mean, you can put my name in, Amy Shaw.
Mm,
You can maybe add Walk the Red. It will probably pop up.
mm,
I'm sure there's, a long list of little numbers and stuff that I don't have memorized, but
yeah.
Instagram, Walk the Red,
Yeah.
walkthered.com. You should
Yeah.
be able to
Yeah.
find me.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
Amy, what's your last word for the people as we close? What will be your last word for leaders that are watching you or imagine leaders? What will be your last
Mhm.
comment here?
I think
Because we've
too,
been talking about leadership is service, so that's what we make in
yeah,
this podcast.
yeah. We've
Leadership
really,
is all about service
we
here.
have really talked about that. And I think the best way for you to become your best self is to believe what is said in scripture about you. If
Mm,
you are a believer in Jesus, I guess this is not going to apply if you're not, but if you are, to really speak life over yourself. I think that was
mm,
something I was missing as a child.
mm,
I allowed those words of death to fall on my ears and to really settle down into my spirit. And I think
mm,
it makes such a difference when you know the truth and you claim it and you speak it. Um,
mm,
so I think
mm.
speaking positively
Yeah.
is just so important. and you build yourself up so that you can serve
Mm.
others.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. You have to build yourself up so that you can serve others because
Yeah.
no one can serve from empty. That was so true.
Right.
That's when we
Right. I
get
mean,
into the
when you're
plane.
so worried about yourself, you're
Yeah.
just, you're so negative, you're so negative. You don't
Mm,
even think about other people in the world. You're
mm,
so busy
mm,
thinking internally. So yeah, I think
mm.
building up yourself and understanding that you are a valuable person and
Yeah.
you will add value to the world
Yeah.
when you believe that, and then you start looking out and you start seeing all the people that need you.
Exactly. Wow, that was awesome. We've had such a great time, with you
Thank you.
today. We're still going to have an opportunity and to bring you up at the Authors Forum to really go deep
Yeah.
into the book. And Coach Amy, you've been so phenomenal. You've been unapologetically you, and you've been so unique. Want to thank you for your time. You are so busy, and but you be able to give your time to add value to leaders and emerging leaders. Thank you so much.
You're
Until
welcome.
we,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, so until we come out your way, viewers, with another great leader, and don't forget, knowledge is like a paint. Until you apply it, you won't see the difference. So take the leadership lesson that you've learned. That leadership is all about service and make that application, and the difference we eventually show. Thank you and see you next week.